your new social lubricant.
America's first competition talk show.
You're in the hub.
Good day and welcome to the Hub Internet Show. All week long on the program we have Gil, Michael, and Bart on the program. And today we've got, this is an interesting story, by the way, guys, that has not come out very often. If you may or may not have heard about it, but right now there is a debate raging on over some recent actions taken by the Central Intelligence Agency, by the CIA, that were green-lighted by the Obama administration to take out an American-born citizen, Anwar Awlaki from New Mexico, who was a radical militant Islamist working in Yemen, living in Yemen right now, who is working with Al-Qaeda there and preaching jihad against the West, specifically against his country of origin, against the United States. And the debate is right now is that did the CIA, did the administration overstep their boundaries, specifically with the Fifth Amendment, with the protection of private property and life and liberty for U.S. citizens without due process of the law. In other words, without due process, we had no right to take this guy out, unilaterally speaking, and now the debate is over whether that was an overreach, if that was an abridgment of the Constitution, and how far is too far to go, because there's some interesting extenuating circumstances about this question. But I'll just put it to everybody on the panel. Bart, first off, is this too far? Is there not enough legal process in this due process? There was no due process.
There was no due process.
Should there be due process?
That's what makes it interesting with this administration. They, on the one hand, they've got the guy that actually drove the car up there and was going to blow it up. They read him his Miranda rights, and they're going to run him through a civilian court system. On the other hand, they've got this guy over in Yemen who I guess was one of the masterminds behind it or helped assist with it or funded it or whatever. They kill him without due process. They need to make up their minds. I agree with what they did with the guy in Yemen. I totally agree. I'm glad they did it. Make that the policy. Let's just start doing that. And don't even worry about Miranda, Miranda rights for these guys.
Yeah, how do I feel this morning? Which side of the bed did I get up on? Do I want to blow up the terrorists? Do I want to let the terrorists survive? He's a U.S. citizen. I don't know. Gil?
Yeah, I think, a few years ago, I used to say if you run with outlaws, you're an outlaw. I think for the most part, he was pretty vocal about about his beliefs and what he was considering should be done against Americans. And no, I don't. I think that's a bunch of crap about due process. We're at war, and that's what happens when you're at war.
Yeah.
I think, the Miranda rights, I think they're even revisiting parts of that, obviously, that Holder is, discussing that maybe needs to be changed a little bit also to help policemen in a situation like, the guy in Times Square. But this thing, no, hell no.
Well, and that's an interesting point too, Michael, because the Hub, if you're watching online, we actually do the webcast from Atlanta, Georgia. We're zeroing it down here for those of you watching online. But I mean, for one thing, we have the Centers for Disease Control. We have a lot of targets here in the Atlanta area, which are terrorist targets. You worked in law enforcement in Atlanta, and obviously this would apply to a lot of cities that have the type of facilities you would want to target. Similar situation could potentially happen in Atlanta as we recently saw in New York in Times Square. Miranda rights, how far should we have to go in order to step in and avert potential disaster? If I'm local law enforcement, how much power do I need to have?
Well, certainly you never want to trample people's rights. However, you have to look at the big picture. And in this case, this is nothing new because when we were fighting the Germans in World War II, we had a similar situation where we had to deal with enemies of our country. And the debate, if any debate should take place, it should be in the process of determining if someone is a threat to the nation. Once you determine that, then all bets are off. You have to do what is necessary to protect the lives of American citizens, and that's what we're doing, and I think the United States should continue with this program.
Well, but the Constitution itself, I do want to bring this up, does stop us short of free speech. Basically, it stops short of inciting violence against the government.
Right.
And that's a line that you draw. And obviously, he has crossed that line, whether he's in Yemen or on U.S. soil. Gil?
Agreed, but I think that, a big difference is that he's in Yemen. I mean, we have the issues with the guys on airplanes when they land. The guy that tried to blow up the plane to Detroit. You've got they're in the air, they're international. Whether you have them in an American court or a military court, I think this guy in Times Square, that's a little different issue. Do you put him in a military court? That's a little fuzzier to me. But, when you're in Yemen, you're obviously a part of the war.
I got an idea. Let's send him to Yemen, and then we just blow him up, and it won't matter.
Why don't we build the next Gitmo detention facility type function in Yemen,
there you go.
and then we have all bets are off. I mean, but that's another question, too. I mean, the political aspect of this. We hear about Gitmo nonstop for 2 years solid here in the U.S., and all we're talking about ultimately is humiliation of suspects that we're holding at the Gitmo detention facility. Here we're talking about waxing a guy's shorts. I mean, targeted execution, I guess, is better politically than humiliation.
Yeah, but I think you have an issue also that, we got lucky in Times Square. You're going to have this happen. And unfortunately, Yemen is where they've moved to some degree, and Pakistan. So when we have the next significant terrorist strike, are we going to go to Yemen and end up, really at war in Yemen? That's a possibility because, that's really between there and Pakistan. And I don't think we're going to enter Pakistan. You're going to run into some issues there.
Well, you had a couple of American operatives saying that if you can imagine him making radio speeches for the Germans in World War II, there's certainly a parallel here to his danger. I mean,
absolutely
as a militant, and beyond the legal debate, is the question of whether killing Mr. Awlaki would be a good idea, because a lot of Muslim activists and scholars are saying that would accord him a martyr status. But by that same logic, I mean, I guess killing any militant is a bad idea.
Well, what is your thought, though? I guess the other part of that is when you use the drones and you get your target and you get 20 other targets, you weren't civilians. That's another situation that you have to consider. Is that part of the engagement of war? Or is it not? What's acceptable on that level? That's another.
Well, and it's like dropping pamphlets from the sky and saying, "Hey guys, we're going to target you, 3 of you, tomorrow morning." And so, what do all that night? I gather civilians around me until I'm,
go in a mosque and hide out in a mosque or something like they.
It would depend if they're valuable coupons or.
That's true. Depends on what's in the pamphlet.
Come
Once
on now.
again, we get back to product placement, which is key
Always.
in anything we do in life. We'll see you tomorrow on the Hub.
Let's go! In the club with my homies, tryna get a little VI, keep it down on the low key.